Hi, and welcome back to Lisa's Stamp Studio. I'm going to teach you a fun fold today called the double front fold. Here's the card we're going to be creating. I want to show you how the panels work. So there's one, and then there's two, and then there's the inside of the card. Isn't that fun? Really easy. It does have some pieces, but I've got all the cutting dimensions down below in the video description if you are here from YouTube. If this is your first time visiting my YouTube channel, I would love for you to subscribe. Go ahead and click that subscribe button down below and make sure you click that small bell icon that's next to it. That will give you notifications of when I'm live here on YouTube, as well as when I upload a new video. Let's head over to the stamp table and let's get started on today's fun fold card. Here's a good close-up of that card, and I think you can see the fold a little bit better now. So there's a small panel on the front that opens, and then there's another panel on the inside, and of course then the inside of the card. Really easy to put together, so I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. You'll start with a piece of soft suede cardstock. This measures 5.5 by 6.25, and I did score it at the 2-inch mark. This is going to make that small fold that we showed on the very front. I like to use my bone folder to get a nice crisp edge on those score lines. So here now we have the base of the card. You'll need a piece of cardstock for the insert, and I'm using Whisper White. This is measuring 5.25 by 8. I did score it in half at 4 inches. And one more time, I'm going to go ahead and use my bone folder. This piece will eventually go inside here, which will give us our double folds. Let's work on the stamping next. On a scrap piece of Whisper White cardstock, I have mounted the sailboat image, and this is from the stamp set called Sailing Home. I am having a great time with this. As a matter of fact, it is going to be featured in my August card making kit. If you're not familiar with what that is, head over to lisasstampstudio.com and click on the online classes tab. There's also a coordinating set of dies for this stamp set, and there are a couple extra pieces in here that are not part of the stamp set, which really expounds the purchase. Now, if you bought them together, it would be considered a bundle, which will save you 10%. I'm going to be using Night of Navy ink. I'm going to stamp my sailboat, and I'll stamp that here. From that die set, I've gone ahead and pulled out the coordinating die, and I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Now I've got my die cut sailboat, and I'm going to hold it here just for placement. And then I'm going to switch over to my soft suede ink. The great thing about Stampin' Up! Products is the color coordination. So this ink pad matches the cardstock. And I've got my greeting here, and I'll ink that up. And I'm going to stamp that here near the side. Switching back to my Night of Navy ink pad, I have the image of the birds. And I'll stamp those here near the top. I'm going to remove that sailboat for just a minute, and I've got a layer of Night of Navy cardstock. I'm a big fan of my silicone craft sheet. Adhesive, hot glue, and liquid glue will not stick to it, which just makes it ideal for my work surface in case I get a little zealous with my adhesive. And then this is going to get mounted here. I'm going to leave a slight border of color all the way around. I'm going to take that sailboat and flip that over, and I'm going to use my dimensionals, and I'll place one here at the top, and then a couple others here at the bottom. I'm going to switch over to my mini dimensionals since I have them, and I'm using the paper piercing tool attachment to my Take Your Pick tool, which I absolutely love. I'm very cognizant that my dimensionals really need to be balanced on the back of my image, since my card will be mailed and it's going to go through the postage meter at the post office. This image then will get mounted here off to the left side. I'm going to set that aside for just a minute. And I've cut another piece of Whisper White cardstock that is the same size as this one. And I've mounted the image of the compass. And I'll use the Night of Navy ink for this. I want to call your attention to the north, south, east, and west that's printed on the compass. So make sure that you're cognizant of that when you're stamping. I've done that wrong several times. And then I'm going to stamp that here in the center. Included with the dies are some really great pieces that I told you that are not part of the stamps. And this is the needle for the compass. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add that here. Believe it or not, I'm going to use a glue dot because I'm going to add a small embellishment to the center. So I'm going to take my piece, I'm going to add the center where the hole is. It's going to be hidden to the glue dot. I'll carefully lift. I'm going to wrap just some of that extra to the back side, and then I'll attach that here to the middle. Just like we've done with the sailboat, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add adhesive to the back side of this as well. Then I'll border this on the Night of Navy cardstock. This piece of Whisper White cardstock that's going to open up to the inside, we're going to do a little bit of stamping. I've pulled out the rope image, and I've got the soft suede ink here, and I'll stamp that. I'm going to stamp the greeting now in Night of Navy, and I've mounted the words congrats. This is all from that same stamp set. Now that we have our pieces, we are ready to put our card together. We're going to come back to the base, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the Whisper White layer in on the inside. So make sure you've got it going the right way. This is the back side. I'm going to add adhesive generously to the back side of this card. I want to make sure that it's going to be well stuck because it's going to be open and closed quite a bit. That's going to go inside of here. You are going to leave a small margin of the soft suede color all the way around, and then you'll press that in place. I also cut a piece of designer series paper. The Sailing Home stamp set and dies comes in a suite of products, and also included is designer series paper. There's an embossing folder and a couple other things we're going to be using on our cards. I've cut the designer paper 1 3/4 by 5 1/4. Remember, all the cutting dimensions are listed below for you. The designer series papers with Stampin' Up! For the most part are double-sided, so you have lots of options. This now will get mounted here on the left side. Again, I'm going to be leaving a border all the way around. The front of our card is going to house the greeting. You're going to see here that only part of it is going to be able to be adhered. You don't want to put adhesive here, otherwise it's going to impede on that double front. So I'm going to flip that over. I'm coming back to my full-size dimensionals, and I'll use several rows. So I'm going to put one here, one in the center, and then one here on the end. And because this panel is only supported by that very small piece of cardstock flap, I'm going to make sure that I'm using a sufficient number of dimensionals so that it stays well intact. Making sure now that the dimensionals fall here, this is going to get mounted right here in the center of that flap. Now before I go too far, I'd like to open it and make sure that there's no dimensionals exposed before I press that in place. The second panel with the compass is going to go directly underneath it. So let's ready it by putting some adhesive on the back side. I am literally going to hold this piece. Remember, the adhesive is here. I have it in my hand. I'm going to hold it right underneath this piece, and I'm going to line it up, and then I'll press. That will mount the second layer in place. And then, of course, we've got the inside of our card. I'm going to take one of the small rhinestones. They already have glue dots on the back, and I'm going to add that right here in the center of my compass. I've chosen to add some of the coordinating baker's twine that's from this exact same suite. This is about 20 inches. I'm coming up underneath that left side flap, and I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to make what's called a single loop bow. If you've not seen this in one of my previous videos, I would love to teach you how. So go ahead and make a single tie, and then start as if you were going to make a bow. But instead of stopping with 2 loops, you're going to pull this other one all the way through and then tighten up with the opposite hand so that you only have 1 loop. Now I realize that this is out of proportion, so the tip for you is to hold the knot, and then with the smaller loose end, you're slightly going to pull, and that will adjust the size of this loop for you. And then just want to make sure that your tension is in place. And then of course you can open this up and kind of shimmy it to where you want it. I'm going to trim away the excess, and I'm going to add a trinket from that exact same suite of products. I've pulled out the anchor from the Sail Away trinkets, and I really am enjoying these because in addition to the anchor, you also have these really cute ship wheels that you can add to your cards. They're really thin, so they're easy to add to your card without having to incur additional postage. I've got the anchor here, and I've got my glue dots. So I'm adding a glue dot here to the top, and I'm going to press. And then what we're going to do is we're going to tuck this underneath the knot. So I'm kind of lifting it, placing that opening here, and then I'm going to press that in place. It's going to be a little bit hidden behind the twine, but it's definitely noticeable. Here's the card we created together today, the one I created before you joined me. If you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you're interested in receiving a complimentary copy of the current catalog, please head over to lisastampstudio.com and click on Contact Me. Provide me your full name and mailing address, and I would be happy to get one in the mail to you. If you have enjoyed today's Fun Fold video, please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube and show us some love. Thanks so much for joining me today, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great day.